Hey everyone, welcome back to Prime News. Oh man, sorry about not having an episode yesterday. Lots of technical difficulties. I kind of covered it in the one video I did release yesterday a little bit. Kind of sorted out today, sort of. We'll see what happens. But this episode's coming out no matter what. Even if the editing isn't super fancy, hopefully it is the same quality you've come to expect from these episodes. We have a bunch of big stories, I think 7 of them, one of our largest Prime News yet. So I don't want to waste too much of your time. I'm just going to mention, hey, today is the last day to enter our Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury giveaway. We actually have some news about that game today. But yes, we're giving away 2 copies. They are digital codes, but it is open worldwide since the Switch is region free. I'll be announcing the winners during our live stream tomorrow, and I will announce the time for that live stream later today in the community tab on our YouTube channel. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Also, subscribe to the channel. We're on our road to 70K. Let's go. All right, our first story today is about Joseph Fares and Haze Light Studios. So they announced a new game a little while back called It Takes Two, which, looks really, really good. And Joseph Fares himself is famously known for A Brother of Two Tales, A Way Out, and, oh, by the way, basically telling the Oscars where to stick it. Well, here's the deal. We want to know, is this game going to come to Nintendo Switch? Short answer, no. But here's the direct reply. No, we don't have any plans to bring this game to Switch. I'm not sure we can actually do it. I'm not sure because people forget sometimes. We do split screen games with a lot of shit in it. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. Trust me, it takes a lot of effort to make this work on the old gen consoles because there's so much going on. This is quite interesting. Obviously, Panic Button is probably on the phone being like, hey, you said Impossible Port, right? You see what we did with Doom Eternal, right? You said, right, cool. You saw what we did with some other game, like Impossible? I remember the time when we thought The Witcher 3 was impossible. So I don't want to say impossible, but maybe impossible for them since they're not really Switch experts. But hey, the game looks really good, so there is that. And I'll play it on other platforms if that's the only option. Also, Joseph Fares actually prefers the way Sony approaches releasing games versus Xbox. He thinks Game Pass is interesting, but he thinks the single-player experience... I think you can have single-player experiences on Game Pass, but whatever. I think it's just a preference of games. Like, he prefers PlayStation games over Microsoft games. That's okay. I prefer Nintendo games, so what are you going to do? So for our second story, we have discovered that Phantom Hourglass has actually had its trademark applied for and given to Nintendo out in Australia. Now, they actually applied for it late last year and got approved in November. Now, normally this stuff doesn't matter, and we don't really talk that much about Nintendo trademarks and when they get them. However, what makes this interesting is, one, not only because the game came out like back in 2007, but because guess what? It is February, and on the 21st of this month, it is the Legend of Zelda series 35th anniversary, and we have long speculated about a possible collection or releasing old games, and a lot of it's been focused on, hey, let's get like a 3D Zelda collection style, let's get Twilight Princess HD and the Wind Waker HD over, but why not bring back some of the other games? And the best-selling handheld game to date is technically Phantom Hourglass. Now, personally, Phantom Hourglass is my least liked Zelda game. It is literally at the bottom of the pile for me, but it was really, really popular. Linebeck is a very interesting character, and it'll be interesting to see how they could translate some of the unique things in that game to the Nintendo Switch, such as the fact that it was all touchscreen controls. Technically, you could still have touchscreen controls on the Switch when you're in handheld mode. I'm not sure that that's the way, though, that I would prefer. I hope that they translate those controls as emulators have and stuff to more traditional controllers. But hey, I look forward to possibly seeing this game land on Switch at some point this year because, hey, Phantom Hourglass, it's another Zelda game. We got Link's Awakening, Phantom Hourglass, still waiting on the Wii U HD ports. So, hey, Breath of the Wild 2 as well at some point. It exists, right? Right, Nintendo? Nintendo is adding new games next week on February 17th to the Nintendo Switch Online service in the SNES and NES apps. Those games being Psycho Dream, Doomsday Warrior, and Prehistoric Man for the SNES, and then Fire and Ice for the NES. Now, what's interesting about these Super Nintendo games in particular is that nobody's really heard of these games, so nobody knows if they're actually any good, and there's still a bunch of games out there that are bigger, like Earthbound Beginnings, that haven't been like brought over yet. So it's weird to see them like forego some of the bigger name games that we would all love to see to go for some really obscure ones. So it's kind of like I'm okay with the obscure ones, but at least get one big name one in there, right? Maybe that's just me. And Fire and Ice is actually a really good Nintendo Entertainment System game. I don't know how many people actually played it. I tried it out when I was a child. It's actually very, very good. So that to me is a higher quality unknown game. But what makes this really interesting is that Japan always seems to get a different game or two than we do, and all the games they're getting this time around are basically the same, or games that we already have here in the West, except for one. They have one major game they're getting that, I mean, it makes sense because they already have the first one, but we would like that here in the West, and that is Shin Megami Tensei 2. That's right, Shin Megami Tensei 2 is arriving for the SNES app in Japan next week. We don't have it here. Technically, region free, you can go download the Japanese SNES app and play it, but then it's in Japanese, and we would like it in English so I can actually read what's going on and understand the menus. But hey, they're getting Shin Megami Tensei 2. They already have the first Shin Megami Tensei in Japan, so it does make sense to bring the second one there. I just wish they would just translate it and bring it here as well. It just feels like a missed opportunity, and I guess as long as this online service exists, we can try to hold out hope. Ubisoft has released their financial results, and there's a lot to digest, so I'm going to look at my notes here because I want to make sure I get these points right. It was the top third-party developer for all systems, but so essentially, whether it was PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series, Xbox One, or Switch, it didn't matter. Ubisoft was the number one publisher on all those platforms in 2020, individually and collectively. So I want to make that clear, like they are dominating on every platform from a third-party perspective. This is something they mentioned about the Switch in particular. It says, we're also reaping the benefits of the Switch's huge success in our position as the leading third-party publisher on the platform, thanks to, among others, our Just Dance games, Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is still selling really well for them apparently. The depth and breadth of our catalog, which goes beyond the brands mentioned, provides us with ever greater visibility and continues to be a strong driver of profitability. That Phoenix Rising has actually performed extremely well on all platforms, but especially on Switch. They had their strongest quarter in company history with a net profit of $1.2 billion USD with a B. That's a lot of money for a single quarter. And every game they released in that quarter performed really well, whether it was Watch Dogs Legions, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or Immortals Phoenix Rising. What's notable about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I own on Xbox Series X, is not only is it a really good game, from my personal experience, but it's actually the best-selling, fastest-selling game, whatever, in Assassin's Creed history. So there is that as well. Maybe it's buoyed by the fact that, like, it's a cross-generation game. I don't know. Maybe people are just still really into all those Viking shows out there, so that's driving sales. Whatever the case might be, hey, congratulations Ubisoft on having a very strong quarter and a really, really strong 2020, which it seems like every video game company had a very strong 2020, with people being at home and needing more and more ways to entertain themselves. A new report has come out on Kotaku, and yeah, I know, Kotaku, not always one of my favorite outlets, but doesn't change the accuracy of the report, and that is that Dualsense controllers, so the controller for PlayStation 5, are experiencing drift. Now, to be clear, this was actually a concern before PlayStation 5 came out, when it was discovered through teardowns, because you could buy the DualSense controller before the PlayStation 5 released, because that's just something Sony does every time. It was discovered it was using the exact same sticks that the DualShock 4 uses on PlayStation 4. And I don't know if you're as aware of this as Joy-Con drift, since there's a bunch of lawsuits going on with Joy-Con drift, but the DualSense 4 controller, or the DualShock 4 controller, has had a lot of drift issues. It's actually known as one of the worst drifting controllers in basically video game history, outside of Joy-Cons, which are obviously at its own level. And basically you have Joy-Cons way up here, everything else way down here, but then you have like the DualShock 4 right in here, and it appears that the DualSense controllers are starting to join that same category. And what is frustrating right now, of course, is how time consuming it is to get a repair order in now. Sony has confirmed through, Kotaku went through the repair process, that it is covered by warranty, at least for that first year that you have the system, which is the standard warranty. But you do have to pay for shipping to them. They do not pay for a shipping label for you, although you could pay. They will pay for shipping back to you. One interesting thing about that, of course, is there are some areas, even in the United States, where shipping might cost you upwards of $30 to get it to Sony, and that's a lot of money for a controller that's only $60 to get a brand new one. So take that for what you will. Plus, you can do self-repair for much cheaper if you're willing to take apart controllers and all that. But here's the thing. They said that it took them forever to get through the repair process because it's not obvious how to go through it. So first off, you start with your standard customer service, which is a chat on the internet, with a live chat with a Sony support person. Okay, that Sony support person basically won't help you, but it'll eventually give you the roundabout direct number to call Sony and press 1 to get to the PlayStation 5 line of Sony. Well, here's the thing. When you do that, they said they listened to exactly 12 pre-recorded messages before they could do anything, and no ability to skip them. Each one of those individual messages all about how, no, we cannot tell you when your store is going to have stock of PlayStation 5. For some reason, they couldn't just condense that to one pre-recorded message. It had to be 12. So take that for what it is. And then after the 12, they had to wait 17 additional minutes to get a representative online, which, I mean, wait times like that could be longer and shorter depending on who you are. Nintendo's customer service is usually much shorter than that at picking up the phone. And then obviously that you can go through the repair process from there. So all told, over an hour, for them to kind of get to the point where they could, oh, okay, so this is where I need to order a shipping label from and pay for it and all this jazz, send it to you guys. And they said it'll take anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks to get the controller back, which is pretty standard, and shipping's been kind of wonky right now with the pandemic going on. I have a new laptop arriving today that I'll be doing a lot of my editing on and schoolwork on, video editing and schoolwork, and surprisingly, it actually is going to come today. What sucks is when I'm done with this video, I actually have to go upstairs and sit there in the living room wait since I have to sign for it. And they won't tell me a good time. They gave me a 9:15 to 2:30 time frame. A 5-hour window. That's a wide net window. Thank you, FedEx. So anyways, DualShock Drift, or DualSense. I always get confused because it was DualShock for so long, now it's DualSense. The DualSense controller has drift, so we'll see how widespread this is over the rest of this year. Previews are in! Yes, folks, they are in for Bravely Default 2. And, well, they're all pretty glowing. I glanced at over 20 different previews, and all of them basically say that this game is super high quality, and it screams high quality out of every orifice. The only thing they seem to really knock a little bit is when you're in battles, the backgrounds can be a bit plain and boring. However, because the character models and enemy models are so high quality, they can sort of understand why more of the processing power is put into the models than into some background fluff. Although they say obviously the rest of the game, there's hand-drawn art and all this that looks really gorgeous in the background, but battles in particular, a bit bland background, but really exciting battles. So take that for what you will. I'm not going to bother to link to all of them, but I will link to Nintendo Life's video preview of it, because that video preview was done by one of my former colleagues and a good friend of mine, Xeon. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in a very in-depth look at this game, which it practically feels like a review. It's just they've only played 15 hours, so it's not technically a review. That being said, we do have some review news for you, because today was the day the review embargo dropped for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. And, well, it's reviewing pretty well, although I'm not sure at the time of me recording this video what the Metacritic or OpenCritic rating is when I'm in editing. Nate, boop, boop. There you go. But I do know what a few big outlets have put out there, since literally the reviews dropped minutes before I started recording, and that is, we got Nintendo Life giving it a perfect 10 out of 10. That includes Bowser's Fury mode, which almost all of them are glowingly praising Bowser's Fury mode. We got a 9 out of 10 from GameSpot, and then the other big outlet that I was able to check out and had it up right away. It was IGN who gave it a 7. Although you could say, well, there it is. It's a 7. You know, I mean, it felt like that particular reviewer was probably always going to give it a 7 no matter what. It is what it is. Wide variety of viewpoints and stuff on there. So we'll see how well this game performs review-wise. Not sure, because it's a Mario game and it's a known property, a known game from Wii U, that really reviews are going to really affect sales all that much. The game could score in the 60s and probably still sell a crap load, but it's not going to score down there. My prediction for where it settles at by the end of today is somewhere in the high 80s. I know some people think that's, well, hey, the original got a 93 on Metacritic. Yeah, but that was the original release. Now we have the knowledge of that original release with the new content, and there's been some minor changes to it, and we got to know if the game aged well. So when you throw all that together, I'm thinking high 80s. Sorry, Switch Stop. I know it's like your favorite game of all time. It's probably a 10 out of 10 for you, but it is what it is. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Nathaniel Robert Jets from Nintendo Prime. It's been nice getting back into it. Nice getting in front of the camera. Technically, I was in front of the camera yesterday, but then technical difficulties suck sometimes. But I'm back, and I'm ready to rock. Catch you guys in the next video.